Hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. For today's podcast, I actually have John Henry with me. He's a independent pro wrestler, former wrestler, and say hello to everyone, John.
Hey, how y'all doing?
And I just want to say welcome to the show. I know this is something that you've been excited about ever since that we actually got together to actually talk about what we wanted to do. And I just want to say thank you for taking your time out of your night and everything just to talk about some of the old memories they have from when you were wrestling and everything. I do appreciate you being on.
Well, I appreciate you having me. This is a blessing. I love it.
You're very welcome. And I have a question. How long have you been doing that? And being an independent pro wrestler at the time, what motivated you to be a pro wrestler?
Well, what motivated me? I was a big maniac back in the day, like most of us.
Right.
So in 2000, I was out of high school, so I signed up with Kaida Pro Wrestling. They're known in the Northern Virginia and Pennsylvania and Maryland, around that
Okay.
area, that territory. I think they still do shows out of Pennsylvania, actually. But I wrestled for 7 years with them. Unfortunately, I got a house in 2006,
Okay.
and I had to pay for the house, so I had to quit wrestling because of the mortgage and whatnot. But
I can imagine.
I got a good 7 years out of it.
Well, that's good though, man. At least you actually got to enjoy what you loved doing for those
Oh
7
yeah,
years and
oh
everything.
yeah,
And I bet you got a chance to meet a lot of people that you never thought
oh
you would
yeah,
actually meet in that long
yeah.
time period and everything too. So that's just awesome. I mean, I can tell that you still have passion for it just from the way that you're actually describing things and everything, and just your energy that you put into it. And I just have a quick question for you, like how how long at the gym and everything do you actually have to spend? I know that you actually had to spend hours upon hours in the gym trying to work out, trying to get yourself into shape to where you can actually have close to the same weight class that the other person that you're wrestling against. And I know there's a lot of physicality whenever it comes down to that. So I do appreciate you actually putting your time and your body and your efforts into giving somebody a great show. So my question is this: how long did that actually have to take? What did that actually involve?
Well, I've never been a huge gym guy until actually I got out of wrestling. But I was always tall. I was about 6'2" or so, and
Mhm.
200, 240 pounds. And I was always in good cardio shape. Uh, but yeah, I worked out a little bit too, though. But I wasn't like like a big gym guy for my career, though.
Okay. And another thing though too is like you said they were a big Hulkamania fan and everything too. What other influences actually influenced you? I know that Hulk had a big influence on you, but what was your biggest passion about just getting into the rink and actually just turning on and being engaged into doing what you're doing?
Well, it just came back from all the guys that ran with Hulk, like Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage, and all the old
Oh,
school amazing The Undertaker, who just retired. Uh, all them guys, Ric Flair was a big influence too, of course. It's
right.
hard. It would take me 30 minutes to name all the the great
I can
guys out there.
imagine.
But all
You see,
the late '80s and the early '90s really inspired me the most, I would say.
I can say that because the heels of that time was really great during the 80s and your 90s and even the early 2000s and everything too, because I was big into WWF and then it changed into WWE later on. But Million Dollar Man, then there was also Randy
Oh yeah,
Savage, and then Undertaker was always my go-to. I was always into the dark characters for some reason. I was a weird
yeah, me
kid,
too.
but
No, me too. There's nothing weird about that. There's more.
no,
A lot of people like that. I love horror
right,
movies and stuff, so
me too.
it's all good.
But yeah, I actually like dark characters. I actually like the heels that they actually have. You know, what would you say was some of your favorite stuff from WWF as well?
Oh, the Mega Powers when Hogan teamed up with Randy Savage, and then
Oh yeah,
then they had the big. You could see the feud coming even when I was a young kid. It was like they're gonna have to fight, and I have to choose one. But I was for Hogan, of course, and then but yeah, since Roddy Piper, who I got to meet actually uh, around 2005. Really nice guy. Rest in peace, of course. He was a big influence as well, and the feud he had with Brad News Brown was really good, and the feud he had with Greg Valentine was really good back in the day. I didn't watch wrestling back then, but I watched it on the network, and that Greg Valentine Roddy Piper match blew my mind. It just was amazing. I got to meet Greg Valentine. Was it last year, babe? Oh, she's not. I think yeah. Last year I got to meet him at a Comic-Con. So in
Oh, that's cool.
Tallahassee, Greg Valentine. Yeah, he signed my little autograph for me. With a picture of him and Piper. I got him all on my wall. Two
That's
years
pretty
ago.
awesome.
2 years ago.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks, babe.
And my other thing I was wondering about, what is some of your favorite memories that you had with wrestling as well? I mean, that's something I was always wondering about. I like to actually hear some of your memories that you actually had with wrestling and, just doing what you love doing.
Well, I got a really good story. It's not really a favorite memory because it was a real situation. But
Right.
there was this guy that I was going to wrestle in 2003 in Elkton, Virginia. I won't name him, but he didn't want to do the job for me, and because he thought I didn't look impressive enough to beat him and whatnot. And I got a little worried. I could protect myself. I was a real wrestler in high school, so
Okay.
I wasn't worried that way. But the promoter made him do it, and they brought it. They said you give up a signal if he starts shooting on you in the ring. I said, well, I'll be shooting back if he shoots on me, brother.
Mm.
So he did the job and he apologized. So, but that was definitely number one story in my mind.
Okay. But yeah, I can definitely see that though, because some people, if you're new to the whole entire thing though too, and they've been doing it for longer than you are, there's
True.
going to be some beef between the two
Yeah.
of you because it's like, hey, I'm the guy here. I'm actually the one who was here before you, and things
True.
like that. And you're just a little small person in my rearview mirror that I just want to
Yep.
go on ahead and cream and put behind. So I can
True.
actually see why you would act, because it's like, in a sense, you have to knock down the biggest guy just to make a point and
He was
everything.
big. He's a
And
big boy too.
I know that he wasn't as probably as big as Big Show, right? Or
No, he
how
wasn't that
big?
big. I was actually taller than him. He was about 350 pounds. He was a big dude, but I wasn't intimidated. I just was like, this is not what I signed up for. If you know, but
Right.
I'm not going to back down from him. If he starts shooting at me, I'd shoot him right back. You know,
Exactly.
so I hope. The funny thing is, he did a Samoan drop on me during the match. He did everything professional, but I screwed up and moved my head too much, and it scraped the canvas. And Jimmy Z, my promoter, he thought the guy did that in the ring as a shoot, but I was like, no, it was my fault. So I had a big mark on my face. So it made a good story at the end.
That's actually pretty cool, though. I mean, I
Yeah.
know that when it comes down to stuff like that, you're always gonna have battle wounds and things like that
Oh
whenever
yeah.
you're going
Oh
through things
yeah.
like that. You know, and like I said, it takes a big physicality whenever you look at it and things like that when you're doing wrestling. Another thing though too, you actually have some family inside the group in the chat as well. Let's see here. We have Roxy 007, and then we have your aunt that's in here too.
Ah.
And
Cool.
then Vortex Garage, the Chalk Master.
All right. I love
Your
him.
uncle's in here too.
All
Hey
right.
now.
Great.
So that's awesome. I'm glad that you
Hey
actually have
guys.
a big. That's actually awesome, man. I'm thrilled that you actually have a big following, a big family that supports you and what you love doing
Yeah.
and everything. Because that motivates you though too. I mean, it shares you get to share your passions with your family. You get to go ahead and just be motivated through them to be able to do what you used to do and tell them stories about what you used to do as well.
Yeah.
And you know, I remember another match like the table late ladders match and stuff like that with Jeff Hardy and the Hardy
Oh yeah.
Boys and things
Oh
like
yeah.
that.
Phenomenal.
that was a great, those they had some great matches during that time and
Sure.
everything
They,
too.
they did,
But
and they still kicking ass today. Them Matt and Jeff,
yeah,
one on each. They're doing well. They're two of my favorites.
mine too. And my question is this: was there like any insane stuff that you actually had to do when you're doing wrestling or anything like that? Because I know, like on Mickey Rourke's film, The Wrestler, they actually made them go through some insane stuff with putting tacks on the
Yeah.
wrestling ring and things like that. Was that extreme, or was it more?
Yeah, I never got into the hardcore stuff. Like I had a training seminar with Nikolai Volkov, and he's as old school as you're gonna get. Rest in peace, Nikolai. And he's such a humble guy. He's probably one of my favorite people of the veterans that I met. And he says, guys, I'm in that accent. He says, guys, I am old school. So I was taught old school wrestling, like the 80s wrestling type, grab a headlock and
Right.
tell a story and that kind of thing. So I never got around. I would have loved to have done a hardcore match eventually, but I never we weren't really a hardcore promotion. We were kind of old school promotion. So
Okay. But that's actually pretty cool that you are actually the old school level of the WWF thing instead of going to the extreme stuff and things like that. I think that the WWF style kind of thing still works today. You don't really have to be that extreme with certain things to make your point or whatever. You can still do everything that you love doing. You just don't have to go through the extreme of actually putting your body through torture and everything too, to where you actually have to be on tax and all that other crazy stuff.
yeah, it's
So
crazy. Some of the stuff like Mick Foley, God bless him. He's one of my favorites behind Hulk, and some of the stuff he went through was a little too much sometimes. But I appreciate everything he did for the business. He's
I
awesome.
agree. Mick was actually one of my favorites as well. He put his body through hell, even in that
Yeah.
Hell in the Cell with the
Oh,
Undertaker
yeah.
and
I
everything
watch that
too.
every once in a while.
Right. But yeah, I mean, not only that, but even with the females of Glow though too, in the
Oh yeah.
'80s, they put themselves out there though. Like we can
Yeah.
be just as good as the men can and everything. We're gonna put ourselves through just as much hell as the men do and stuff like that. So I thought that was actually pretty cool that they're actually putting their stuff out there just as how hardcore as the men are, and
Yeah.
everything is like. But yeah, I think it's because I believe that women can do just as much as what we can and
Oh,
everything. So I'm a big supporter in that.
I like the women division better than the men division right now. If we're talking WWE,
Right.
my wife Nick says a big Naomi fan. She said Naomi.
You
I
see, I
love
used to be a big
Naomi too.
Lita fan though too. I
Oh,
used to be a
Lita
big
was the
Lita.
best. Lita was the best. Yeah, she's awesome.
She was. She was a total badass. She knew how to actually, even when she was hurt, she acted like she wasn't hurt at all and everything. She would just limp off the rink and everything like it didn't even bother her and stuff like that. You don't get that much anymore. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, just like in sports, you dislocated a finger or whatever. The coach would go on ahead back in the
Get
day, just
back
snap
on the
it back in
field.
place.
Yeah.
Right.
It was old school
Now,
wrestling. Now,
right,
they had so many uh, injuries, head injuries, and all that kind of stuff. They had to kind of change their pace a little bit unfortunately, with the Benoit situation, with the
right.
concussions and stuff that he had, they had to change a little bit of the style. But I like what AEW is doing. To tell you the truth, they're bringing back kind of the old school wrestling with a mix of the new school wrestling too, and it's really really good and entertaining.
You see, that's what I've been watching a little bit too as well. And I like the fact that they're actually doing just like the WWF days and everything too, because they do have that old school flavor to it that we all
Yeah,
love. And they're doing a whole lot better in their ratings right now versus WWE.
yeah,
WWE is trying to find its spot again on on the radar, but they're just doing a bunch of repetitive stuff that we've seen from over the years. Like we saw, for example, with Undertaker with Edge. We already know Edge is going to come out in the middle of an Undertaker match, try and steal away from him. And then next thing you know, there's this beef war. There's going to be a pay-per-view match for that. And then next thing you know, something winds up happening again and Edge winds up either winning or losing, and then Undertaker has to go ahead take his belt away from Edge again. So it's very repetitive and the same formula that they actually
yeah.
keep using over the years.
True.
But
Yeah, true.
To me the best days were, like you said before, was the 80s to 90s era. Then also too, I also like the early 2000s, the NWO phase and
Hmm.
things like that. And also too, I just want to say this. Some people are like, well, why is he, this is just me, why am I having someone that's actually wrestling on my channel or whatever? I said, because of the fact that I feel like, I love movies and everything, but here's the thing, wrestling and everything is part of an entertainment art. They're actually performing, and they're just as important. Even pro independent wrestlers are just as important as WWE superstars. They're superstars in their own community. They're able to actually interact with the community in itself because the town is behind them. And because the town is behind them, they can actually focus in on what they want to do and show their passions for what they want to do. And that's what I feel like a community of independent pro wrestlers are and everything. They are role models for other kids who might want to be into wrestling. And they're like, well, my motivation is to be like John Henry. My motivation is to be like this other guy and everything. And that's what I actually feel from a small community or a big community whenever you look at independent pro wrestling is that.
Yeah, it's a cycle, and all the guys now were watching back then, and it's a cycle of the fans end up becoming wrestlers eventually. So it's great. Uh it's great. I mean, we'll never know who the next big thing's going to be, but I like the stuff that the Fiend's doing. Really like from I like the dark characters too a little bit. The Fiend is one of my for WWE. I think it's one of the entertaining things they're doing.
I agree. That is probably the most entertaining thing that they're actually doing right now and stuff like that. That's pretty much what it has going for itself as of right now. It's just that I love the writers during the other times though too, because for instance, for example, the Schmodown Entertainment Network, which is actually um, movie trivia in a WWE kind of format where they're actually answering questions in the wrestling ring. This is back in when they were at Booker T's rink answering movie trivia questions in a wrestling ring. And then they had tables, ladders, and chairs and stuff like that. They brought out that and started hitting each other with the chairs at the very end of the match and
All right,
everything.
cool.
Yeah. So Christian Harloff used to work for WWE and everything. He
Okay.
was actually one of the writers. And I have a question. Did you actually had to have some writers for you or anything like that as far as doing something like that
No,
you're doing?
we were still old. We were pretty old school. They would have a sheet in the back who's going over, and then me and the guy would talk about it, and then kind of ad lib out there. Well, it's kind of old school like that, which I prefer. I would love to be in WWE, of course, and make that all that money, but I don't know if I could be the guy that is spoon fed all the lines and stuff.
Right.
All that's why a lot of people have left. But it's just a totally different. Some people are really good at that situation, so it all depends. But no, we didn't really have writers. We just had a booker that told us who's going over, and he might tell us to finish or something like that, and how long we should be out there. But it was pretty old school. He kind of let us run the asylum.
Okay, that's pretty cool. And I have a quick question for you though too. Like, how many minutes would you say was your longest match that you ever had, and the most challenging match that you ever had?
Well, it was probably with Mike Intensity. He was one of the veterans in the locker room. But it was really good, and we probably went for about 12, 15 minutes. So I was pretty much in and out in around 8 to 9 minutes usually.
Okay, that's pretty good, man. That's actually pretty cool. And what was your finishing move that you would actually use on somebody?
Well, I was kind of the underdog, people's champion type situation, like Mikey Whipwreck a little bit. I didn't really have a finishing move, but I would come up with like pins. I would get the surprise win in some situations. Do a schoolboy. I added in the later in my career. I added in the bulldog, running bulldog coming off and then I did in one of the promotions I did a leg drop from the second rope, but I didn't have a huge finish move. I would have to say the running bulldog would be my
Okay.
finish. because my gimmick was a cowboy, so
Okay.
I focused more on beating people up and that kind of sort of situation. And as to just the wrestling, I was trying to be a little like Stan Hansen, the great Stan Hansen, a little bit, and a little JBL before he was JBL too. Justin Hawk Bradshaw, he was it.
Right.
I tried to pattern it, with those two Hall of Famers. What they
That's
did was
pretty cool.
great.
All right. And did you ever have like a theme song that you would actually have to come out to, or was it
Yeah, yeah, it's still on my ringtone for my cell phone, "Sweet Home Alabama,"
okay?
because
That's actually fitting for
I
that.
hailed from Huntsville, Alabama. So yeah, "Sweet Home Alabama" was my ringtone. It's about as cowboy as you can get.
Right. I can agree. I can agree with that. It's about as southern as you can get as well.
Yeah,
But
true.
so I can actually, to be honest with you, that would actually get me psyched up for a match as well. Just coming out to that song.
Yeah, the crowd loved
Yeah,
it. Crowd loves. They pop for it, especially in like you said, the South. In Elkton, Virginia, they loved it.
that's great. And how many states have you actually traveled doing this and everything?
I stayed where Kiter went: Maryland, Pennsylvania, and Virginia, and DC.
Okay,
One match in DC, Washington DC.
that's actually pretty neat. So you have to travel a little bit. What would you say was your favorite state that you actually visited?
I'd have to say Pennsylvania was the best crowd. Well, they were right on Maryland. They were right on the border of Maryland, so it was right there. I can't remember the name of the town, but in Pennsylvania, we had a really hot crowd. It was always packed, and they really loved the action. It was really good in Pennsylvania.
I can imagine that. I can imagine that crowd. Just the energy from that crowd has to be
Uh,
huge.
yeah, it's even if you only got a few hundred people there, they're passionate. They paid their $10, $20, $30, whatever it was, and they want to see the best show. And we wanted to give them a even better than WWE. We tried our best to do even better than WWE. We're just a little independent show, but we wanted to do the talking in the ring, and they were a hot crowd. They really loved it up there.
That's great.
Hagerstown, Hagerstown, Maryland was fun because I got to be the heel in that town, and I love being the heel. Heels are so much fun.
I can imagine, man. Because to me, I have a lot of fun with heels versus heroes. Like I'm just going to use this as an example and everything, because I mentioned the Schmodown before with the whole trivia thing. But they had this guy named John Roca, the Outlaw, and everything, and basically he would just come out with his cowboy hat, with his V for Vendetta mask and everything. But at first, he's very humble, and then all of a sudden you saw a whole entire transition just transitioning through. He goes, "I'm the best guy. You're gonna have to take whoever this son of a bitch is. You're gonna have to take this belt away from me because no one's gonna take me down in this Schmodown match. You hear me?" Next thing you know, he gets
Nice,
speared, and there's like a whole entire beef war going on and everything with him. And next thing you know, he ends up forming the Five Horsemen. It
nice.
like I said, it's awesome if you ever get a chance to check out the Schmodown for movie trivia and you love wrestling. They incorporate the wrestling really good and everything and stuff like that. They're actually even though they're doing COVID and everything, they still do matches and everything through
Oh,
webcams and stuff too. So
good,
I
good.
recommend that. But yeah, I
Okay.
thought and there's a lot of heels though that I like in the WWE as well, especially whenever you look at the Olympian. What was his name? Chris Angle. The beef war between him and Undertaker was really good and everything too. And I just feel so bad for the UFC, the female UFC fighter that transitioned from UFC over in Ronda Rousey over into WWE. And the crowd never really gave her a chance.
Mm.
And she had the Roddy Piper thing. Her biggest passion was Roddy Piper. I
Yeah,
just feel bad for her.
she was over the first few months, and then people just turned on her, and yeah. But I enjoyed her. I thought it was great. It brought a she was kind of the female Brock Lesnar type character, which was kind of cool. But you overdo that too much, and people get bored with it, I think.
Right. And I can actually tell that people were getting bored with that, but that was up to Vince to actually make that call and say, "Hey, look, you need to go on ahead and try something new that we haven't done before and everything. People are getting tired of this. It's not her fault. We need to focus in on what we need to do as writers to make it better so that we can stand out. And that was a call on Vince's part to actually try and make that happen. It was not her fault, Rhonda's fault at all, because Rhonda's just doing what the script is actually called for
True.
and everything. So, but people don't look at the outside element of it. They only look on the inside
True.
element.
Yeah, and everybody thinks they know what's going on, and they do to a certain state. Kayfabe is pretty much dead. So, but the kids, they still think it's magic. So,
Right.
it all depends on the situation, I guess.
That's true. Another thing though too is I remember up in New Hampshire and everything, I actually got a chance to actually watch some independent wrestlers though wrestle and stuff like that. And I was just engaged into the match and everything, just like a regular normal match and everything. I just remember somebody actually dressed up like the big boss man and everything too, with his
Nice.
security. Yeah. So of course I was actually going for him and everything because I'm a kid, not, I was just going for a cop or whatever. So
Yeah.
that was like the but yeah, that was actually the first type of wrestling match that I actually saw, and I was just loving it. I was eating that all up until like 10 o'clock at night, and then finally I crashed around 11 o'clock
Nice.
whenever it was time to go home and everything. But yeah, I just like showing big support through entertainment, and it just rings on through me. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's the same effect for you though as well.
Yeah. Cool, man. That's awesome. No, it's great. I love wrestling. I love if I'd love to be back into wrestling. I wish I had the confidence I do now. Back then, I think I would have stuck with it and not bought that house.
But still, everything happens for a reason,
True.
If it wasn't for
True.
that,
Yes.
you probably wouldn't be on the road that you are now, and
True.
everything would should be a whole lot more blessed than what you are now.
True.
You're being
Absolutely.
so.
I just got my first child came in February 3rd, Kaylin, and I see her grow every day. I'm a stay-at-home dad. I take care of my baby all day. And I love my wife, Tamara. So we just celebrated our third anniversary. So I'm on top of the
Oh,
world. I love
congratulations,
it.
man! That is just
Thank you.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Everything. You're very welcome. And my friend Tamika, if it wasn't for her telling me to check you out and everything, stuff like that, I wouldn't have known anything about you. So I'm glad that
Yeah,
Tamika put me in touch with you.
I love
Tamika's
Tamika
awesome.
too. She's awesome. Yeah, her
And
and my wife have been friends for years. So years. They're besties. I think. Not
yeah, her and
since
I
around
actually,
'99. I think.
that's awesome, man. That's really awesome. I'm glad that you guys have actually have some closeness with her as well. A matter of fact, matter of fact, I was friends with her through a Facebook comic book group, and then her and I actually becoming closer as friends because we're actually doing the podcast together, the YouTube stuff together.
Okay.
She actually helps me out with the advertising and stuff like that, and she does a phenomenal job with it.
I
But
love Miss Mika. Hi Mika. Thank you.
um, well, my other question is this: like, what else would you say? What would you give advice to kids that actually want to get into wrestling, or people that are thinking about quitting because they're just getting burnt out from it because they're not getting noticed and stuff like that? What's your advice to them?
My advice is keep digging. Don't give up, like John Cena says. But um, I would say to a young wrestler that's out there, other than don't give up, save your money, man. Save your money because it can be rough on the independents for a while until you get noticed. But save your money and keep on trucking. Don't give up because and keep in the gym. That's one mistake I made. If I had put more effort in the gym, I might have got noticed a little better. So WWE is definitely looking for a look. They like the big guys too. The big strong guys. But keep on plugging. Don't give up. If it's your dream, don't give up. Even I still keep in touch with a lot of my friends that are still plugging in it. So they've been wrestling for 20 years. So it's amazing. I wish I could have kept on going too, but everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't change nothing for the world.
That's just fantastic, man. I mean, I can tell that you're actually happy and everything with your family and things like that. And like I said, if it wasn't for you making that decision, you probably might not be on this road that you're actually on
Yeah.
now, which is
True.
probably 10 times better than what you ever imagined it to be. Even though I
Yep.
know that you, in your heart, though, you still have that drive, you still have that passion, but at the same time, it's like, I have a wife, I have a family that I have to think about now,
Yeah.
and I just got to move forward. And even though it's still my passion, there's other ways I can actually put my passion into something
Yeah.
and everything
True.
too. So, I think that there's going to be huge things for you in the horizons, though. I have a feeling. It's just my gut feeling. But,
Thank you. Thank you.
again, very welcome. Because I mean that from my heart and everything, though, too, man. Because, like I said, I can actually tell when someone is passionate about what they do. And I can tell when someone's going to make it. I can tell when someone has that drive. You still have that drive. You have that little smirk on your face saying, I still want it, but at the same
Yeah.
time, it's
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
still, that's just awesome. Because even my friend Charlie and Kidrick and everything, they were into independent pro wrestling as well. They worked for AutoZone and everything too.
Okay.
But yeah, they're two of my best friends and everything. I couldn't ask for any bit better or whatever. But back whenever they were really into it and stuff, they were heavy into it. Like every single time when you turned around, Kid Rick was always doing wrestling matches. Charlie was doing wrestling matches, and it was at the county fair lines and everything too, where we actually had our county fair, where Charlie would wrestle, and same thing when Kid Rick would also wind up wrestling as well. So it's just awesome wherever
Cool.
you actually want to wrestle at. That's pretty much where you are. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. My poor sister had to put up with me. We had our KWWF Kids World Wrestling Federation in the basement. I had about 12 different personas. it was fun. We used to VHS record it back in the day. But she forgave me. Knock on wood.
You know what's funny? I remember in 8th grade, we used to have like wrestling contracts, like we were in WWE type of thing. Like in 8th grade, we would actually go out during our break time and wrestle
Yep.
and everything.
Okay.
And the teachers would think that we were actually hurting each other. That's how bad
Oh
it was.
yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah, that's cool, dude.
And the funny thing is, my friend Alex at the time, he had all the contracts drawn up. It's like, okay, you're gonna get 10 minutes here since we're cut for this for break time here. You're gonna get this much time, and then this touch time, and then before you know it, there was this one thing where everybody just gained on each other and everything, and piled up on each other at the very end. And then that's when our teacher came out there and goes, "What are you guys doing?" And at that point, I was actually crawling from underneath everybody. I actually had my lunchbox and everything crawling because they were actually going for me. But what was funny though, I came out of there. It looked like a cartoon, I swear. But I was actually crawling underneath everybody, and I got out. And my teacher was like, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." You need to go check on them though, because they still think I'm under there. So it was like a huge dog pile type thing. We even had it
That's
to where
cool.
we were hiding in between lockers, and we were even doing the heel thing though too. And because we're so engaged into the wrestling federation at that time. We had The Rock. We had The Rock, who was
Austin.
actually first coming on board. NWO and everything too, which was probably one of the best things that happened to the early 2000s. X Pac, Generation X. We had a
Stone
lot of
Cold.
good stuff. Yep, Stone Cold, Steve Austin, Big Show.
Yeah,
You
yeah, that was a really good time for wrestling too. It's up there with my favorite time of wrestling too.
same. So let's see here. One other thing I want to ask you though is this too is how we were actually talking about scripts, about people reciting scripts. People don't realize this though, is the fact that if you're not projecting it right, that crowd can actually eat you up
Oh yeah,
and everything
yeah,
too.
that's true.
And that's all. And not only that, but I actually watched Fighting with My Family, which is probably the closest movie that you actually get to actually know what it's like to train
True.
and everything, because Vince Vaughn does a fantastic job playing the training
Oh
coach.
yeah, yeah, he did
And
great.
He did really good, and he even says it. Look, if you're not believable, that crowd's going to eat on you, and everything else, and you're just going to have to eat their shit, or you just going ahead and just quit because your feelings are going to get hurt. You cannot
True.
be sensitive in this game.
True. Yeah, it's true. I'd much rather be a heel than and the independence is a little different because they don't watch you every day on or every week on a like a Raw or SmackDown. You have to gain their respect, and you got to gain their respect quick. And it's a lot harder to be a fan favorite in the independents than it is to be a heel. Heel, you just tell somebody shut up or do this and
Right.
that, and just be a real pisser. But you come out there and try to get them to cheer for you is tough. That's why it's the heel's job to kind of get the heat, and so they'll cheer for you to kick his ass.
Definitely. Let's see here. Brandy wanted to know, did y'all like DDP?
Yeah, I like DDP.
Yep.
He's one of my favorites. I think he's very underrated.
Hmm.
I, I sympathize with him because he was 30, think 36 when he started wrestling. Uh, and in my late 30s, I had the itch. I wanted to come back as well. But yeah, DDP's great.
That's correct. Yeah, I definitely have to agree. DDP was actually underrated. Still is underrated if you actually think about it. Nobody really talks about
Yeah,
him. People talk about Shawn Michaels, of course, Hitman Hart, and stuff like that. Rest in peace. But no one really ever talks about DDP that much or anything, and I don't even know why. Because I thought he was actually my favorite standout for the WWF at that time in WWE. He
yeah,
was
he
actually
was
what
good.
represented WWE.
Yeah, he was good. He was good. I like DDP.
And let's see, Brandy also said that she likes Sting. I like Sting as well,
Oh yeah,
but I like WCW Sting because of the black and white makeup that looks like the Crow makeup and things like that. And Ready to Rumble is also still one of my favorite films as
yeah. Ready
well.
Rodman was good. Yeah, I liked it. It had a good, good lesson to it. But yeah, Sting is great, and he just came back to AEW, so we'll wait and see what Sting has in store for us.
I'm excited. It's like, okay, Undertaker retired, but here comes Sting entering his
Yeah.
way back in. So now we have a dark character that we can actually root for again.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's something that I'm actually excited about.
Yeah, me too.
But
I can't wait to see what he does next.
but this is actually gonna. I know that actually cutting this a little short and everything than I normally do. It's just that I have another show and everything that's gonna be starting up pretty
No
soon.
problem.
But I do appreciate you being on, man. And I'm gonna have you back on again for a longer interview because I want to actually
Okay.
interview you longer, and I want to put a lot more into this than what I'm doing right now. But I do appreciate you taking out the time and everything.
I appreciate you having me. This has been a great blessing. I love it.
I'm glad, man. I really am. I'm glad to have you on. And you're always welcome on the show, whether we're doing an interview or doing movie reviews or anything like that. You're always invited on. So I
Okay.
just want to let you know. But anyways, guys, here's the thing. I'm actually going to be doing a podcast for an audio only for the review of season 4 of The Sopranos. So I'm going to be doing that at 8 o'clock Central Time. So I'm just trying to get things geared up for that. Tomorrow, I'm actually taking a little break and everything because of the Christmas holidays. I will be back on Saturday. Charlie Wildman will be Wingman. That's actually my nickname. I actually call him as Charlie Wildman because it's actually close enough to his last name is Widman. But anyways,
Cool.
Charlie Widman will actually be on the show Saturday night, and we're actually going to be doing movies of 1996, best and worst films of 1996. So we're going to be doing that at 8 o'clock Central Time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time on the YouTube channel. Another thing, too, guys, if you guys want to donate into the show, you guys don't have to. I understand this whole entire coronavirus thing actually has everybody pretty much on a tight budget. But if you guys want to and want to feel generous, go ahead and donate to the GoFundMe page on the links below. We're also part of Audible right now. So go on ahead, get your 30-day trial with us, and you'll get to listen to some good audiobooks. If you guys actually want to get all your entertainment news, go to www.movieloversunite.com. Also, too, we also have a Facebook page that's been up and running since 2013, and that is actually called Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite on Facebook. We also have an Instagram, Movie Lovers TV Lovers Unite, and you can also follow me on Twitter at on Twitter as well at Movie Lovers Unit. And you can also follow me at John DeGregorio 8. And always until next time, guys, it's been a pleasure. Stay safe. Have a merry and blessed Christmas. And bye-bye.